Canada is a terrible place to do business. And in this video, I'm going to tell you how we took the Canadian company to above seven figures just through specific strategies and having a global mindset. So for years, I used to think that Canada was the place and you want to do business in Canada, then the world is really just Canada. So recently I've learned that Canada is actually sort of a socialist country, and there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to understand what things are unemotionally. And you have to understand that America is a capitalist country. So when you understand these concepts and how these concepts actually work, you can see how you can take advantage of both. Because there's some real downsides to 100% capitalist culture. And there were some real downsides, obviously, to 100% socialist culture. But if you do business globally, you'll be able to win and to take all of this in your best, to take the best from each. So pretty much, in starting raises our tongue, in doing all these things, I've always realized that we didn't really care about where we did business. When I worked with a firm that was assisting people in raising capital, was several years back, I saw that the best clients, the most amount of funders, the people who were most eager to do deals, most of them were in the United States. Some of them were in Canada, and then a few of them were in the UK. And the ones that were in Canada were mostly in Alberta. And we just saw the biggest opportunity and the quickest response rate, we just looked at the data. The data was telling us that everything was easier to do business in the US, regardless of us living there or not. That's number one. And we realized that if you're a Canadian company and you want to do business globally, you can actually make money by paying your vendors in Canada while getting, and speak to your counsel, obviously, getting your vendors in Canada and paying um, getting your clients in outside of Canada. Because if you don't collect taxes, you don't collect GST, HST for clients that are not in Canada, then you pay for vendors and you pay tax in Canada, you can make more money because you get tax credits. So if you don't pay taxes or you don't charge taxes to your customers and you pay for Canadian services, then you're paying tax and then you get more tax credits. So you want to play the game in a way that benefits you. Secondly, the thing is, in Canada, it is a very small market. And so I really noticed that the online digital advertisements and the types of business people in Canada is far more easy to compete in Canada than America in many cases. Either the two things, either in what I've observed being a Canadian born citizen and doing a lot of business with Americans is I noticed that people in America, they it's easier to start a business in America for sure. And you do have monopolies, but in Canada, the monopolies are way more serious. For example, I'm somebody who I always like going to see movies and watching the movies. And I noticed that the monopoly with movies, for example, are everywhere in Canada. And if you look at events, you see who sponsors events in Canada. You notice that the events that are sponsored in Canada are always by the top four banks. Scotiabank, RBC. RBC sponsors everything. Whereas if you go to America, you see there's so many types of sponsors. They're not the biggest company. And the barrier to entry to be a sponsor for things is so low. You also notice the investments culture. There's a way more risk tolerance culture in America. It's the only country that has this whole venture capital way of doing things. The way that they underwrite loans, so on the debt side, because we have a registered debt brokerage in the US, the way that they underwrite loans is way quicker, way easier. And to even be able to do business in regulated industries can be easier in many cases. It's not always easy, but it's way easier than Canada. So when you add all these things in, and you look at the buying power of people in the US, you look at the fact that they have credit cards more easily at younger ages with better interest rates, you look at the fact that it's a 10 times big, 10 times bigger the economy, or sorry, 10 times bigger population, dozens and dozens of times larger economy. Um, you can just see that it's significantly better to do business in America. So the issue is you don't want to have the downside of capitalism working against you if you're doing business in America. So if you want to have free healthcare, you want to have, um, free health, because I think America is the type of place where if you're at the bottom, you don't want to go to America. Or if you've been middle class, you don't want to be in America. If you're in the upper class, then you will be in heaven if you're in America. Because America is very good to the rich people and is very cruel to those who are poor. Whereas Canada is sort of just okay to everyone. Um, you know, Here in Canada, there's a 66% capital gains tax on on well, there was going to be 66%. Now it's back down to 50%. That doesn't mean that they take the 50 or 50% out of your bank account. It just means that 50% of the money you make, after I can't remember the amount. I don't know if it's 250,000, but after that, you're charged 50% of the income you make of the profit you make is taxable income. Whereas I believe in the US, it's way lower. It's around 30. Another thing about Canada is that you don't have to live here all the time. So Canada's very big for traveling to different countries because you don't have to live here and you're not stuck in Canada. You can always, some people can even denounce their residency and they can get tax residency in another country and speak to your accountant or anything. You can move per deb to Dubai, get tax residency there, and not have to pay Canadian tax. But check with your accountant because I don't want to be on the hook if you make a mistake. Because this is just for information, not an accountant or lawyer. But if you do that, then you can be free. Whereas unfortunately, if you're in the US, you have global taxation. Only the US and Eritrea have global taxation. And so that's the issue. So if you want to raise money, try to raise money in the US because the US dollar at the time of the recording is about 30%, over 30% more powerful than the Canadian dollar. And people are more willing to do business, either in the US or Canada. Like a lot of people are willing to land and do business. Um, Living in the best parts of America is way more expensive than in Canada, except for maybe downtown Toronto and Vancouver. But really, America is way more expensive. It's also the best place is also way more beautiful. So, some people, one of my clients, all he does, he lives the summers in Canada, travels to America only for the big events, and then spends the winters in Mexico or another developing country. So arbitrage the money such that he's making. I also believe that being close to rich people is also really useful. So if you're able to be close to rich people, that could be really useful. But ultimately, like you don't want to be emotional about things. You don't want to also be in denial about things. I don't understand why people have some sort of like loyalty towards any country. You should just be loyal to your goals. And if any country can help you get to your goals, then just use it. So some people, they try to sell everything. Some people try to sell, Cayman Islands. They try to sell America. They try to sell Dubai. They try to sell Canada. Removing the emotion, understanding that everybody's just trying to sell something, and knowing what's best for you is probably the best way to get to your goals. But ultimately, one thing that every business owner you speak to who does business globally will always tell you that America is probably the best country in the world to do business in. And Canada is really just okay, but it's really just like a cute place to start from. It's like a global, I can say it's like a global launchpad. It has some of the risk adverseness, if I can say that, of the UK with some of the boldness of America. So it's kind of like a hybrid. It's like a diluted uh, America, or it's like the braver UK. That's pretty much kind of that. And I do have to say that politics has something to do with it because when you look at states that are shifted red, uh, down south, so I use red and blue. So conservative states are usually better for doing business. Landlord friendly laws some people may say anti-tenant laws. For example, it's easier to, kick people out if they don't pay rents in a right leaning area. But if you're in a rough bleeding area, it's harder to kick out somebody who doesn't pay rent. So a lot of times in Canada or in blue states in America, you see people that just suffer in real estate because of this humanitarian liberal way of thinking. And again, it's not bad. I'm not saying it's bad or good. I'm just saying that depending on who you are, where if you're watching this, if you're a business owner, that's bad because you won't be able to afford to keep your tenants. So with all this, take advantage of where you are, make the most out of it. And if you like this video, you want to see more, make sure you hit the subscribe and click on the link in my bio or the description so you get access to a free 19 video program which goes through every single topic about raising money and buying businesses with other people's money. And with this, we'll see you in the next video. And if you didn't get the message right away, if you're in Canada, raise money in America. If you're in America, just stay, raise money in America. And talk soon.